All right. Good morning, and thank you for watching. All right. So I posted a video yesterday about I clickbaited and basically was like the Trump prophecies exposed. But I basically did kind of like my version of an objective review on the Kim Clement prophecy, in which he was saying that just the main root prophecy that a lot of people go off of when they talk about Trump getting reelected, and really just discussing what happened. And so far, at least for me, I got some immediate feedback. I got some pushback, and I just thank you for watching. I'm actually very happy that people are actually watching, that people are engaging, leaving thoughtful comments. So I just thank you. God bless you for that. Today, we are going to talk about if Christians are being silenced, if we're being censored, and if what does that mean for us being blocked on social media? So, for those that have not been following the news over the past weekend, um, President Trump has been banned on pretty much all social media. And a lot of people are celebrating that, right? And I remember there was a friend of mine on my Facebook page, and he was saying, he was like, he doesn't really like Trump. He never really has liked Trump, but his concern was that if we're celebrating him being banned now, but what happens when that ban starts coming to you, right? Like if they can ban the president, who else can they ban? And I think that's a very valid thought. And I wanted to kind of like think this out, kind of critically. So, um, let's start. Let's get started. So, of course, like I said, he was banned on all social media. This is presumably forever or indefinitely, and for, quote, inflammatory speech. The reason why I kind of put it in air quotes is because the last few tweets that were made by Donald Trump, and I'm not sure, like, I have Donald Trump on my Twitter, but like I look at Twitter like once every month. Like, so I don't really know like every single tweet that he's made to say, all right, well that was inflammatory or anything like that. So I'm not about to comment on that. Um, but apparently he made inflammatory speech on social media. The tweets that I personally saw did not seem that inflammatory. It just seems like they were upset because he refused to concede the election, and that he refused to go to the inauguration or something like that. So, for a lot of people, that's no big deal. They're just like, oh, well, that's great. Um, you know, good riddance type of thing. But then uh, there was this free speech app called Parler. And I'm wondering, like, I guess it is pronounced Parler because I looked at this Ben Shapiro interview about it. And so they're calling it Parler, even though I feel like it should be Parlay because it's literally like the French word for to speak. And I thought it was like a play on free speech. But anyway, they're like this free speech app, and one of their things was that I just got some information on this, but one of their things was they refused to like put an algorithm to try and just like automatically block like certain words or catchphrases or things like that, so that it would be a little more free as far as like social media is concerned. The issue is that Apple, Google, and Amazon. So for those that don't know, Amazon like controls like 50% of the servers in the world, right? So Amazon basically like kicked them off their servers, and then Google and Apple simultaneously deplatformed them for having a platform that advertises free speech. So what it's looking like is that even when we try to develop our own apps, right? So it's kind of, and I'm not saying like we, but as far as, you have Facebook, you have Twitter, you have Instagram, you have YouTube, right? And if we say, or if people say anything that goes against what uh, they feel to be appropriate, then they deplatform you, right? So the idea was, all right, well, we'll make our own platform. Apparently, you can't do that either, is what it's looking like, right? Because now you have Parler, which was supposed to be all about free speech, and you could come in. Now, to look at the other side of this, because I did kind of read, I just looked at like a CNN article. And, I don't necessarily trust CNN all the way. Actually, I don't trust CNN at all, to be honest. I don't like Don Lemon either. But I did, just get the other side's perspective, right? And what I guess the claim is that there was a lot of racism, there was a lot of bigotry, and of course, they had to throw in there was a lot of misinformation about the election, right? I'm pretty sure there was a slant to a lot of that. Now, do I believe that there were conservatives, or not even conservatives, but like alt right, type of like Aryan Brotherhood, KKK, neo Nazi type people posting swastikas and stuff like that? Yeah, yeah, I believe that. Um, do I believe that there probably was like some racially inflammatory speech that was posted on there because they felt like it was a free speech site? Yes. Um, but there comes a point where it's like, there is a limit to free speech, right? So, constitutionally speaking, the limit to free speech is that anything that incites violence. So, like, if people aren't going on there saying, like, we need to, commit like a genocide or start a civil war, or we need to raid the Capitol, right? Like, the idea should be, it doesn't matter if what you say hurts my feelings. If you call me something derogatory, right? I could choose either not to listen to you. I could choose not to. It's not like you're going out of your way to harass me, all right? I would much rather, like Pastor Roy Dockery talked about this, where he said, like, he would much rather like the whites only signs be put back up on businesses, so that way he can know where to spend his money. I don't want racists to go into hiding and secretly hate me. Like, if you hate me because I'm black, like, tell me up front so I know just not to mess with you, right? um Tell me that you don't want me in your town so I won't be in your town, right? um so that's one of those things where it's kind of like, I just don't necessarily agree with it. I understand that it's like, all right, hate speech is bad. We all agree that hate speech is bad, right? Like, it's bad to be racist. It's bad not to like somebody because of their skin color or their sexual orientation or what religion they have, right? Even the Bible says we're supposed to be kind to the stranger and the immigrant, right? That's both in the Old and the New Testament, by the way. And what people miss about that is that the stranger and the immigrant most likely have different customs. They have different religious beliefs. They have a different set of values than you do. But we're still called to be kind to those people. I don't know why I have forehead lines all of a sudden, but I do. Oh, Lord. All right. So, anyway, I kind of went on a rant. Let's go ahead and continue this, all right? So, Google, Apple, Amazon, they deplatformed this app that allows for free speech, all right? So, that's score one for the thought police, right? Or is it? The argument is that Facebook and Google owns YouTube, by the way, for those that didn't know, TikTok, etc. They're privately owned companies, all right? And constitutionally, that's true, right? They're privately owned companies. They can kind of add or remove users as they see fit according to what's best for their business. The other thing that you have to realize is that the end users of social media are not actually the customers. So like, I'm not a customer of Google or YouTube, right? I am in a sense of like I pay them a subscription fee so I don't have to see ads. But I am not like the end consumer for YouTube or Facebook, right? I am not the customer for Facebook. I am not the customer for TikTok, right? The actual customers are the marketers, right? So like we're more like the product if you really look at it. Like social media is more like the product. And the actual customers are the marketers. And the marketers of these companies that are advertising to you, they are for instance, like for those that don't understand like how YouTube videos get monetized, right? And I don't know a lot about like the ins and outs of how many views you have to get in order to be even considered to be monetized and all that. What I do understand is that with marketing, uh, basically these companies say, all right, well, we don't want to scare all the customers away, right? We want to keep people watching, right? And so the more people that are watching, the more you can advertise to, or the more you could sell advertisements to the people watching, right? It works just like TV. So just like TV, what YouTube is trying to do is they're trying to be as least offensive as possible, right? All for the sake of making money, right? So they're not trying to, it's not that they're just trying to censor Christians, but they're trying to limit some of the things that may be offensive to people who are not Christians. And that's literally been the game for any type of major media outlet for years, right? Like TV has done it, movies have done it, radio has done it. You're trying to get like the least, you're trying to rock the boat the least when you're trying to sell advertising, all right? So that's what you have to kind of keep in mind as well. Like we're not the consumer, we're actually the product, all right? And so the issue becomes this, right? Yes, that those are valid points, but Facebook has 2.7 billion viewers. YouTube and WhatsApp both have 2 billion users. The heck? I don't even have a WhatsApp. I don't know like how you even use WhatsApp. So not a rhetorical question, but does anybody on here have a WhatsApp? Like, how do you have 2 billion users? And even like the dwindling, dying Twitter platform still has 350 million users strong. All right, so you put that in perspective. You have over 4.5 billion people who are currently on the internet, right? You have over half of the connected world, and probably like most of the US on social media. So does that mean that tech giants have some sort of social obligation to abide by like a free speech law? Technically, legally, no. All right. And honestly, the only way to fix that is to have our Congress create a law. Like they would have to create some form of a law saying that, like, they have to abide by free speech. They have to let people post what they want to post as long as it's not inciting violence of any sort. Which is actually pretty interesting because many conservative voices will say that violence is allowed on those platforms due to the amount of death threats that they've received and whatnot. But yet, if you say certain things about the election and whatnot, then all of a sudden that's not allowed. But at any rate, it's probably not going to happen in the next 4 years due to the Congress and the establishment that we have right now. But we'll see. So if these measures can be implemented, right, this is where people get concerned. If these measures can be implemented to block the president, right, the most powerful man on the planet, how much longer before Christians are censored from social media as well? And I get it, like from a political perspective, I could definitely see a problem, right? If you have like 80, 90% of the populace They are on the internet, all right? And on top of that, it's been shown from the Obama administration, from the Trump administration, and now the Biden administration. Each of them had heavy like social media campaigns, which worked out successfully for them, all right? And so when you're looking at that, and then you're like, all right, well, if social media works as far as like campaigning, like political campaigning, and all of a sudden you silence one side of the political debate. So, like, you literally just silence all conservative voices. And all you see is Democratic or Democrat or liberal or leftist thoughts and ideas. And you see all this stuff about social justice and stuff like that. It's essentially influencing the voters to vote for 4 years a certain way, right? And then when it all comes down to it, it's kind of like, the same thing with the news media. It's like, all the conservatives get demonized, all of the liberals get praised, and that stuff is real. That stuff is real. I'm not saying that everything that comes out of a liberal outlet is wrong, but it is very real that it seems like anything that is a conservative viewpoint automatically gets demonized, right? And it's almost like, it's weird because I think very I think it's almost like watching like heels and baby faces in professional wrestling, right? When you watch like WWE, and it's like it's clearly scripted, and you can clearly see like, all right, there's the good guy and there's the bad guy, right? But at the same time, it's like, what makes the good guy and what makes the bad guy the bad guy? Well, it's the script, it's the story that they tell, right? So of course, if the announcers are always like, oh my God, I can't believe he just did that. What if he had a reason for doing that, right? But it's like, he was just minding his own business. And it's like the announcers really tell the story, and the good guy and the bad guy is kind of determined off of the way the announcers tell the story. And sometimes the bad guys go over the top and they talk about the city or whatever that they're in, so that they'll look more like bad guys. But that's basically what I'm kind of seeing in politics, is that like the media is basically controlling the narrative, and they're basically like, all right, well, we're going to say that these guys are the good guys, that these guys are the bad guys, and every time these guys do something, we're going to just say they're despicable and they're horrible and they're bigoted. And then every time these guys say something, we're going to be like, yes, they're great and they're holy and they're virtuous, right? And so a lot of times, from a political perspective, I could see like, if you shut down all conservatives, all social media, that would probably be the end of U.S. conservatism as we know it. All right. But do we face that same dilemma as Christians? If the bans got so extreme that any mention of Jesus would be considered hate speech, right? Would we be rendered, and this is the important question, are we then rendered powerless to share the gospel? And I give you the quick answer because I've already been going for 8 minutes. The quick answer is no. All right? Emphatically and without a doubt, it's no. All right? Let's do a thought experiment. Let's assume that tomorrow all social media decides to black out Christianity. All right? Any mention of God, Jesus, or the gospel, or the Bible, or heaven, or hell, they're automatically censored. All right? The offending poster gets immediately deplatformed. All right? My first point, to quote Jocko Willink, good. All right? And I'm serious. In some ways, Christians losing access to all social media could possibly be the best thing to happen to us. All right? Social media is an awesome tool. It's a great way to disseminate information. It's a great way to provide education and be educated. And it's been great in spreading the gospel, and it's honestly been crucial in the time of the pandemics when we were all quarantined. People were like, well, how do we get to church? How do we worship? And you get like Zoom, and then people were on YouTube and posting their worship services on YouTube, and it was just great. Like, we could all get together while in the quarantine. All right. I'm not trying to disavow the stuff that's good about social media. But let's be honest. There has also been like a cancer spreading in the church as well because of social media, right? It's revealed some really nasty sides of doctrinal infighting. It's brought to the forefront like a lot of loud fringe voices of the faith. Um, and really social media, I guess, either through the algorithms or through conspiracies or whatever you want to believe, like it's really done a good job of like making the faith look bad as a whole. And let me explain. Think of the last big viral church video you have seen circulated around. All right, it was probably not a video of like 200 souls coming to Christ and praising God and just worshiping and thanking Jesus, right? It probably, if such a video exists, which I'm pretty sure it does, right? But if it does exist, it's not viral, right? It was more likely you probably saw like Kenneth Copeland, right? Like, COVID-19, like just yelling at the virus and blowing on it and saying he breathed the breath of God, just acting crazy, right? Or you probably saw like Paula White like having a spiritual anxiety attack while still trying to like twist God's arm in some sort of weird prophetic witchcraft and say, Trump is going to win. He's going to win, right? Or you see in a news clip about Carl Lentz and his adulterous affair, right? And so it's like social media has really done a better job of making us look crazy, right? It's done a good job of making us look bad. It doesn't necessarily, even though it's a good way of sharing the gospel, it hasn't necessarily, through the algorithms and all that, accomplished that purpose. Give me 1 second. I had to respond to this text on my iPad. All right. So continuing though. So so yes, and I do want to point this out. Yes, there are real believers out there. No, that's not helping. All right. So yes, there are real believers out there that are, they're doing the good work, right? They're doing the good work on social media. They're getting the right information out there. They're genuine about just bringing souls to Christ. There are people out there like that. But most people are not talking about like the new Mike Winger video that dropped, right? Most people are not talking about that Ruslan KD or that What Do You Mean video that just dropped last week or yesterday or the day before, right? Most people are not talking about that. They're talking about like the crazy stuff, right? And we're talking about just reaching the world in general, right? If we're going to use social media to reach the world, I don't believe that social media as a whole is accomplishing that, okay? And, more bad news, you have a lot of spiritually immature Christians. So you got people that think that because they read one commentary, they know everything about the Bible. You got people out there that, they just automatically, because of how they were raised, they go and they have this weird thing where it's like, all right, well, if your Christianity doesn't look like my Christianity, then you're like a heretic or you're an apostate. And you have these people that they're like spiritual witch hunters, right? Like all they want to do is go on this witch hunt, and they want to accuse people of not following the Bible according to the standards and stuff. And there are some people like that, right? There are some people that teach some really weird stuff, all right? And I don't want to discount that. There are some people that teach some really weird and some really stupid stuff in the name of Jesus, all right? And yes, that does need to stop. But you also have the other side of the pendulum, where it's like you have the people that just like everybody's wrong, like everybody, and it's like 300 videos later, you're like, so like whose church can I go to? Like, according to you, like whose church is safe to go to that they have sound doctrinal teaching? And a lot of times people like that, they're like, well, I've just discovered that church is just bad in general. Like, they all control, they all, they all teach wrong doctrine. They're all like, they're part of the world system and things like that. So, you have those people too. And then let's not forget that there's actual racists in the church that are having platforms now. And I mean this by like white and black, all right? Because the black Hebrew Israelites have said some really crazy stuff too, all right? So like you do have like your white conservative, God is white type of, God hates black people or God hates gays type of people, that are just, really out there and bigoted. But then you also have your black Christians as well that are out there and just like, the white devil and all that type of stuff. I don't subscribe to either of those things, all right? I think they're both wrong. I think they're both disgusting and they both need to be thrown out. But unfortunately, they're on the internet. They're on social media. And like this is what people see, and they see all this chaos going on in the church because of social media, and then it's like, man, like, why would I want to follow their God and they don't even know the God that they follow, right? And that's the point that I'm trying to get. My second point, we have options, all right? So a YouTuber by the name of Trutha, shout out to him, he made a comment on this subject, and he was saying that American Christians have developed like this snowflake mentality. Let me see if I could turn. That's as high as it's gonna go. All right, well that's great. So I'm gonna try to wrap this up. But Trutha said that we've adopted as American Christians the snowflake mentality. I think as Americans in general, we've adopted this snowflake mentality, but especially within the church. I agree. Let's start with the more difficult but still plausible option. All right, we could get our own TV stations. We could get our own servers. We could get our own tech companies. We could develop our own smartphones, right? We could get our own platforms out. And I know people are like, well, that's what Parler tried to do. But Parler didn't own their own servers, all right? If we owned our own servers, nobody could control. Like, there's a reason the dark web still exists, because they own their own stuff, right? Like, so like, last I checked, whether you love it or hate it, like we still have like CBN. I don't know, is CBN and TBN, are they the same thing? I think they are. But anyway, we still have Daystar. Like, we still have Christian programming out there, right? So what's to stop us from forming another television station, right? Forming another television network. And yes, it's hard and it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of talent, it takes a ton of money to get started. But like if Paul and Jan Crouch could do it like from nothing and pull themselves from the bootstraps, whether you love the Crouch family or hate them, right? They did it. All right? They did it when other people sat back and was like, no, it's impossible. But they did it, all right? And so like we could do that. We could still do that. YouVersion, all right? The YouVersion Bible app was literally created by a kid that was just trying to get like a Bible app for his church, right? And so it's like you have that. And let's say like if YouVersion was to take was to be taken off the app stores, right? And Apple, Google, Amazon, they remove it from the servers, all right? We could create a smartphone. We could create an OS. Like there's somebody out there that has the capability that is a believer, right? And if not, we need to pray that God either give us the talent or give us somebody with the talent, right? Like we need to have better faith in this. Like we could come together. We could buy BlackBerry and then use their operating system and their servers and the RIM system. Like there could be any amount of things, right? Is it hard or is it easy? No. But is it plausible? Is the question. Is yes. All right. So that's the hardest thing that we could do. All right. Next thing is like you could still host your own website. All right. Like I said, you could have your own servers. Now, a lot of people are like, well, if you own your own servers and the thing that, makes Amazon and everybody else is the server latency and things like that. Oh well, you have to wait 30 seconds for your web page to load. Welcome to, 2001, 2002, 2003, 1990, right? Like 1998, where, we were waiting 2 hours for a movie trailer to load. Like now, the fact that, we could get it instantly, like now we always have to have it instantly. Oh well, like wait for your page. We could still, we're talking about being able to disseminate the gospel through the internet. It's still possible. You could still have your own website. Alex Jones was banned from all socials like a year ago or a year and a half ago. That is now his claim to fame. He's like now he calls himself like the most censored podcast on the internet. His website Infowars is still going strong. All right. And then like I was thinking also, like it's kind of old school, but it's still possible to like start up internet forums, right? For those that don't know what an internet forum is, and basically that'd be like everybody born after 2000. An internet forum is a Facebook group or a Reddit group without Facebook and Reddit. All right, it was basically like the very beginnings of the internet, when people used to just kind of group together online and they had special interest group. There's actually a forum that was like a Naruto fan base that I used to follow way back in like 2007, 2008, and they are now basically like they're still up. Like I looked and they're still up. Like there's still like 200 people strong, right? And so not 200, 200 like 1,000, 200,000 people strong. And I was thinking, I was like, man, that's crazy that internet forums are still up like that. So we could create internet forums, right? So the internet is not just because like Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, all that was to shut Christianity down. Like we could still interact with each other on the internet. And like I mentioned before, like worst case scenario, there's the dark web, all right? Like Christianity and the dark web would probably not be a bad thing, all right? So like another thing, texting platforms, all right? I don't know too much about texting platforms, but I'm pretty sure they don't have like these weird algorithms that start talking about hate speech and things like that. Conference calls. Conference calls are still a thing, right? Like my church literally has a prayer line that like I dial some random, number from like New Mexico, and then put in like a code, an access code, and then like everybody that's on the prayer line, they can go on the prayer line, and it's basically like Zoom without the video. By the way, Zoom, right? You could still interact through video conference. I don't know how much like Zoom like really like dials in on how can I put this? I don't know how much Zoom dials in and like spies on people and stuff like that to be like, oh, hate speech. But like I'm pretty sure they don't care. All right? They just want, they're like $14.95 a month so that you could do video conferencing. All right? We haven't gotten into 1984 yet. I think that's one of the things people are trying to panic, and I understand, right? Like Facebook is definitely acting like the thought police, right? It's like every single opinion you have, they have to fact check it now. Like it's annoying. It is. It's aggravating, but we're not in the world of 1984 yet, all right? And I don't know if America would ever get that way. But, we do have to be careful about these things. But what I'm saying is like video conferencing, teleconferencing, those, conference calls, that's still a thing. Buying physical Bibles and having an in-home Bible study, which I think needs to come back anyway. So, in-home Bible studies. And I know some people are like, well, our church does in-home Bible studies. Great. We need more churches that do it. All right. That's going to be a good thing. And then, how you advertise all that? Well, I mean, it's not illegal to still go to FedEx office or Staples and print out 500 flyers and start putting them on people's cars. Start putting them in people's mailboxes, right? Or in people's doors. That's still, possible. That's still a thing. So, the third point that I have, or actually, let me say this too. What about if we actually just spend more time being the hands and feet of Jesus in our personal lives where people actually want to come to church. No. All right. Y'all are too evil to consider that option. I'll move on. All right. Third point. We like, how dare we even have this conversation? All right. Did we forget that the early Christians had no technology whatsoever? Did we forget that they were hunted down, tortured, sacrificed to pagan gods in gladiatorial arenas for like the first 300 years of the faith? And they barely had paper to write on, let alone like a printing press or the internet or telephones or anything like that. They literally were on feet. They were on foot. They took boats. They did all this stuff to make sure that the faith grew from 3,000 people initially to over 2.3 billion people. All right. Did we forget that even in today, in 2021, we still have people? There's an estimated 300 million Christians across like 75 countries and 3 continents that suffer everything from like daily harassment to like having their churches burned down to not being allowed to have Bibles. Some places they have to meet in cave, some certain places they have to meet in caves like 2 to 3 times a year because they can't worship like they want to. Like they have to hide the fact that they're Christian for fear that they're going to be tortured or killed or sacrificed to pagan gods. Like this stuff still goes on, all right? So when did we get so soft that we can't see the forest for the trees, right? When did we start being like Israel and be like, we'll rather stay in Egypt and be comfortable than actually have our freedom? When did we decide to actually complain that it's easier to complain about our minor afflictions than take actions to overcome them, right? Oops, and I bumped my camera. When did we become so lukewarm and double-minded that we have all the faith in the world until it's time to make excuses and complain about things? We don't need social media. The world could take it. They could keep it. Because honestly, the current state of social media is where joy, objectivity, and creativity go to die. All right? But history has proved for over 2,000 years that no matter what you try to do to silence or stamp out the gospel, let me reread that, okay? But history has proven for over 2,000 years that no matter what you try to do to silence or stamp out the gospel of Jesus Christ, it is still going strong, with 1/3 of the world population unashamed to follow him. All right? So for real, how dare we? And my last point, and it's really the least important, but it's the most practical. If you completely censor Christianity from social media, you lose up to 1/3 to 1/2 of your content creators and consumers, which means less eyeballs equals less attention, equals less content, equals less money. All right? And nobody, all the tech giants, to lose all their Christian customers or their Christian viewers or the Christian content creators in one fell swoop, it would be devastating to their revenues. And they would rather put up with our quote-unquote crazy morals and standards than to ever lose that much money. So, thank you for watching. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts on this. Because I'm sure I didn't cover everything, but I tried to cover as much as possible, which is why this video is like 38, 39 minutes. But thank you for watching. God bless. Love you all.